Hello everyone, I hope you're doing absolutely fine and great. I, Atharva, welcome you all to the second episode of Compliance Cafe. And in today's episode, we are going to talk about foreign liability and asset return, that is the FLA return. In case you have missed our previous episode, do go and watch our previous episode, that is episode 1 in regards to TPD3. क्योंकि मैं तो अकेले चल रहा जरीब मंजिल, लेकिन लोग साथ आते रहे और कारवा बनता रहा। और इसी तरह आज कारवा बनाने के लिए वी हैव CS गंदाली अफाली along with us on this episode to talk about FLA return, who is going to navigate us for the return. So welcome to the show, Gandhali.
Thanks, Atharva. I'm happy to be here and explain about the Foreign Liabilities and Assets Return, FLA Return.
Yeah. So sorry I didn't ask for the permission and the Irshad thing before starting my shayari, but it's okay. It's me who grants permission and asks questions over here. So without wasting any time, and to all our viewers and the people who are new to this return, let's navigate to this process. Like, let's start with the basic. Like, what is FLA return? Why it is required to be filed? What are the reasons we are supposed to file this return? And what could be the due dates? Like, in case if a company wants to avoid any penal consequences or the non-compliance fee, if any. So what are these?
That's a great start. So to answer your question, FLA return is basically foreign liabilities and assets return. As the name suggests, it reports about the foreign liabilities, that is the investments which we have received from the foreign countries, and it also reports about the foreign assets, that is the investments we have made abroad. So it covers the foreign assets and foreign liabilities as on 31st March. The due date of filing this return is 15th July of every year. This information is basically used by RBI to analyze the country's investment position, balance of payments, and global economic footprint.
Okay, so just to draft it roughly in a skeleton, it is basically our FDI and ODI, which
Right.
we have received or paid outside India, and it is to be filed within 15 July, right?
Yeah.
So just to my limited knowledge, I believe that the return was supposed to be filed in two tranches, right? The 15 July, we were used to file the return in unaudited figures in case the figures are audited, and up till 30th September, we were supposed to file the audited figures. So, are there any change in this?
Yeah, absolutely. There have been certain changes in this. Now there is no due date to file a revised return. So in case your figures are not audited within the time limit of 15th July, then you have to still have to file the provisional statements, and you have to file the revised statements with audited figures at any time when your figures are audited. There's no prescribed timeline for the same.
Okay, so it does seem that my knowledge is absolute, but just to get the bottom line is that we have to file the return within 15 July, no matter even if the figures are audited or unaudited, we have to file. In case of any variation, we are supposed to file the revised return, and for that we have to follow different process. We have to go through the RBI. Okay, great. Okay, so now as per my understanding, I believe that there are multiple forms of organization who can receive funds, right? So it can be a company, it can be a partnership, or n number of organizations which are available. So if in case there is any foreign funding or we are supposed making any foreign investment, so is like every organization which is there, which has received any funding or we are making investment, are they supposed to file this return?
Okay, so applicability of this return is for the companies, not just companies, it covers also LLPs, the SEBI registered AIFs, that is alternative investment funds, the partnerships, the public-private partnerships, etc. other entities which are required to report this return.
Okay, so the preview is not just to the companies, we have included public-private partnership, LLPs and other forms of organization. Okay, great. So moving further, as you said that companies are required to file this return, I believe that the companies do have a privilege to decide their accounting year. Right. Some companies are following the financial year, that is from the 1st April to 31st March. Some companies are following from the 1st Jan to 31st December. So in case if my accounts are getting audited at 31st December, like my accounts are getting closed on 31st December, I would have the privilege that I will be filing the return as per 31st December. My accounts will be up to the 31st December. So my data should be up to 31st December, right? So in this regard, I have to answer that irrespective of whether your accounts are closing as on 31st December or any other date, you have to file the return for the figures as on 31st March. Okay, so no matter in whatever date my accounts has been closing, I have to file as per the date which you just said as the reference date. It would be
Reference
the
date,
31st
yeah.
March is our date, and we have to file as per 31st March. Any deficiency, like my accounts are closing on 31st December and need to go file up till 31st March, so I need to do the internal adjustment for
Internal
the
assessment has to be done.
Okay, great. So that make things quite clear that the return must be filed up till 31st March and for 31st March only. Okay, so as I have heard that there are various sections in this form, and in this return there are people are getting confused, like misunderstood about this section, like various section, whether this section are applicable to us or not, when we are supposed to find, when these sections get triggered. So could you please just talk to us about this and help our viewers to understand that what are the sections, a general overview or anything if you can help us with.
So this form is a very structured kind of form. So it involves 4 sections, and 5th section is not a section. You can just call it as a submission tab. There's a variation report generated. So to explain, section 1, it states about the basic identification details of the entity, reporting entity, like their registration number, their name, the type of business, etc., etc. Then section 2 talks about the financial details, which involve the capital details, then your profit and loss details, then your sales and purchases figures. All those are reported under section 2. Then section 3 talks about the financial liabilities. Financial liabilities would be the funding received from abroad. It might be more than 10%, it might be more than less than 10%, it might be a portfolio investment, whatever it is reported under the section 3. Then section 4 talks about the overseas investment. Then in the same way as FDI, you have to report the ODI for above 10% investment, for less than 10% of investments, and portfolio investments, other investments, all that is reported under section 4. And section 5 is the variation report, which just tells you what you had filed in your previous FLA compared to what is being filed in the current FLA, and the deviation percentage is shown in that section 5.
Okay, so there are basically 5 sections. First is the introduction of the company, and what is the company name,
Right.
scene, and all basic details. Next comes the financial parameters, where we have to report the balance sheet figures and profit and loss figures that would be audited or unaudited based
Yeah.
on, we have a detailed discussion about this. Next comes the foreign liabilities, that is any investment which the company has been received or foreign funding, we have to report the same. There are various categories. The portfolio investors are there, who holds more than 10%, less than 10%, other categories also there. Then comes the foreign asset, that is for the ODI. So basically, as the name suggests, the foreign liability and assets. So it's the foreign liabilities we are covered in section 3, foreign liabilities, foreign asset, that's covered in section 4.
Right.
And in the last section 5, we are going to discuss that the variation report. So basically, it is for about the variation of the returns which we have already filed, like
Right.
the return for 2024 and comparison with 2025.
Right.
Is there any deviation? No. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So thank you so much for breaking this out so structurally and making us walk through this section. Yeah. Okay. So as you talked about in the previous question, that there are basically in section 2 we have to file about the sales and purchases.
Right.
So what all is included in this sales and purchases?
So for a layman to understand, all the expenses and all the sales as shown in the profit and loss statement of yours are to be reported under the section 2. This includes not just the domestic sales and purchases, but also the imports and exports that you have made during the year. Also, the depreciation part has to be excluded, and even the expenses made for the capital goods are also to be included here.
Okay, so not just the domestic but the international sale purchases, and the figures shall be certain as per the terms which you said, that excluding the depreciation and all
Right.
other capital goods. Okay, great. Okay, so up till now we have seen the FLA return, we have seen the sections in it, we have also discussed the due date, who are the companies or the organizations which are required to file this return. So we have also discussed the sales, purchase, what are included in this. So now moving forward, like suppose is a company, and this is a scenario which every company has. So there is a company which has different class of shares, like there is equity, there is preference share. So in this FLA return, are we just supposed to report the equity, because the equity means the ownership? So is the equity is the only thing which we are supposed to report in this return?
So there's a table in this return which asks you to enter about your equity shares as well as your preference shares. In preference shares also they further ask you to enter the participating preference shares details and non-participating preference shares details. And about the classes, if you have two different classes of equity shares, say class A equity share and class B equity shares, but both have the same face value of rupees 10, you have to report it as a single class and not two different classes.
Okay, so the crux for this is that if there is equity A, equity B, both having same face value, then it has to be reported as one
Single class.
And if there are two equity shares, equity it will be different face value, like rupees 10 and 12, we have to report them as two.
So you have to enter two classes of equity shares, but there is an option to enter the face value for only one class. So it is recommended that whenever in which class your non-resident holding is there, you have to enter the face value for that class.
Okay, great. Now things are getting much clear about the FLA return. What are to be included, what is not to be included, equity, preference, participating, not participating. Even in equity, if there are subclasses, how it is to be reported. Even things are getting much clear for them. Okay, so now we have discussed the equity market. Now there is another market in the capital structure which has a bigger picture. That is the debt market.
Yeah.
So the next question would be obviously about the debt market, like what constitutes debt securities under portfolio investments?
So before answering about debt instruments, I would like to answer about the portfolio category. In the portfolio category, usually the instruments which do not come under the FDI scheme or ODI scheme, which are not reported earlier in the few sections, are to be included under the portfolio investment part. Then about the debt securities, you can include the money market instruments, the bonds, and even the non-participating preference shares are to be reported as a debt instrument under the portfolio category.
Okay, so the money market instruments are over here and the bonds are over here and other instruments which are not anywhere categorized that has to be included
right.
here. Okay, great. So now things are much clear about FLA, like why, how, when, all the clarity we have received over here for the FLA. So I would like to just thank you for this session, and we were so glad that you were here at Compliance Cafe. Help me and our audience as well for the guiding us in regards to the FLA. And also big thanks to my viewers and the audience. If the video helped you out, do hit the like button, share this video, subscribe to our channel, hit the bell icon as well to stay updated for such videos. Up till then, take care, bye bye, and Tara.